The 146-year-old skinny old man is going to challenge the 25-year-old Thai boxing champion. The Thai boxing champion was like a drama in front of the frail Guo Haiwang. This was when Guo Haiwang coughed lightly, and the Thai boxing king took the opportunity to kick him out. However, he only brought back a pair of reading glasses. A pair of experienced hands reached out from behind and aimed at the weakest part. In a snap of a finger, this duel. It was over in less than 10 seconds. After the Thai boxing champion suffered a great humiliation, he angrily kicked the stone pillar next to him and broke it. At this time, Yujiro came out to cause trouble. It was really shameful that he laughed at the Thai boxing champion. If it were them, the Sakura people would have committed suicide on the spot. Unwilling to be humiliated, the Thai boxing champion walked towards Yujiro and suddenly kicked him. Baki wanted to beat up his father, and he kept provoking him with words. He thought that Hanma Yujiro was only showing off that he was the strongest creature on earth, and Baki felt that it was enough for him to be just a little bit stronger than him. As the strongest creature, how could Yujiro accept such a provocation? He grabbed Baki and pressed him against the wall. After this fight, Baki finally realized the difference in strength between himself and his father. At this time in the fighting field, Yang Haiwang was brutally abusing Dorian. Dorian in the arena was like a mentally retarded child, with no ability to fight back, and was knocked down by Yang Haiwang in just a few moves. But Yang Haiwang did not accept such a victory. He blocked the entrance and said that he wanted to have another duel with Dorian Haiwang. In desperation, Oliva could only fight on his behalf, and the two returned to the fighting field. Yang Haiwang tore his clothes, revealing muscles harder than diamonds. His training method was terrifying. He first trained with a wooden sword. Then he changed the wooden sword into an iron chain, crushed his abdomen with a 50-ton truck every day, and then used his flesh to receive the cannon and personally experienced the feeling of the shell exploding. It felt like he was standing under a 100-meter-high waterfall in typhoon weather, letting the waterfall pour over his head all night, and then Yang Haiwang took a horse stance and let Oliva attack him with all his might. Oliva came in front of Yang Haiwang and gently placed his hand on his head, and the next second, due to the successive setbacks suffered by the Chinese Sea King, Guo Haiwang finally could not sit still anymore, and he called his son Guangshu Chuncheng, who was born when he was 120 years old, and his good friend Xiongren Long, as well as Fan Haiwang, who had not yet competed. 5 people formed the Chinese coalition to fight against the foreign warrior Yujiro, immediately took the lead in accepting the challenge. This was definitely the strongest duel in 100 years. The first match was between the free man Oliva and the fierce man Long Long. He had signed a life and death agreement since he was 15 years old and had never lost in the 30 years of fighting in underground boxing matches without rules. Facing such a terrifying man, Oliva didn't care at all. He walked into the fighting arena and took off his shirt. He showed off his muscles and then slowly walked towards Long. Long didn't even bother to fight and didn't even look at Oliva. Oliva raised his fist as big as a sandbag and punched him, but Long easily blocked it with one arm, and the other hand was still in his pocket. The strong impact made his feet sink into the cement. Oliva threw another punch. In the first confrontation, Oliva actually bled. Even a bullet couldn't penetrate his body, but it was cut open. Oliva fought back again, but Long stepped on his toes and instantly lost his balance. Long quickly kicked him in the chin and continued to put his hands back in his pockets. After that, no matter how Oliva attacked, Long dodged it easily and made different counterattacks, even hitting Oliva's ear with a palm. In order to mock Long, Oliva also put his hands in his pants. Long came in front of him in an instant and slapped Oliva in the face with his backhand. Oliva was completely enraged. He raised his sandbag-sized fists and smashed towards Long. However, Long stepped back to avoid it and hit Oliva in the face with another palm. Then he stabbed Oliva in the throat with a knife, and Oliva fell heavily to the ground. Yujiro could not help but marvel at the mystery of Chinese martial arts. Long's seemingly casual hand-stuck pockets contained the principle of sword drawing in Yai Ken. It did not attack after drawing the fist, but relied on the power of twisting the waist. The fist was accelerated in the pocket, and the kill was made. So Oliva could not win on speed. So which side was stronger, the muscles trained to the extreme or the mysterious Chinese martial arts? Oliva then put his hands in his pockets. This time Long was completely humiliated. He stretched out his hands and launched a violent attack on Oliva, but Oliva did not move. The two punches, as big as sandbags, directly turned Long Chui's eyes white, and he fell to the ground. Even Yujiro was shocked by this punch. Soon Long stood up again, and he continued to put his hands in his pockets. Now the field has become a pocket-stuck duel between the two sides. Oliva kept provoking Long's pocket-stuck technique, and suddenly Long stabbed his throat with a knife. Oliva's eyes suddenly became blurred, and Long put his hands in his pockets again, kicked directly at the vitals, then jumped up and kicked twice, pulling his hands out of his trouser pockets, and each move directly hit Oliva's vitals. It seemed that Oliva was being ravaged unilaterally. Suddenly, Oliva hugged the dragon's head and said, The headbutt hit Long's nose and eyes crooked. Long just smiled faintly and hit Oliva's abdomen with his dominant hand, resulting in his fingers being twisted. Oliva told Long that no matter how hard you train, your fingers are a joke in front of my abdominal muscles. However, Long did not give up and used his dominant hand again. Oliva then told me that you have undergone unimaginable training to become stronger, and I have also been through a lot of hard work. Then, Oliva used a violent headbutt again. Long was very unwilling and kept hitting Oliva with the finger-chopping machine. In this battle, Chinese martial arts ended in a miserable defeat. Looking at Long lying in the emergency room, Haiwang's face was burning with pain. He decided to fight in the last 4 games himself. At this time, his son Guo Chuncheng stood up. The shock, followed by another uppercut, made him completely unconscious, and finally used his falling left foot to perform a 3-stroke spinning kick to knock him out. The whole process took less than 2 seconds. Guo Chuncheng's failure brought the Chinese coalition to its darkest moment. They sent out Haiwang, the master of Chinese martial arts, to fight against Karateji Haiwang. As Haiwang was about to start his fight, Haiwang extended his hand to him as a sign of friendship. Haiwang could only extend his hand to show respect. Suddenly, Haiwang turned and punched Li, but Haiwang's fist stopped at his ear. For a moment, the audience was filled with curses. However, Haiwang didn't care. Soon, the two shook hands again, but this gesture of friendship turned into a sneak attack. Suddenly, with a twist of his wrist, Haiwang wanted to throw Haiwang over, but Haiwang's abdominal muscles were like an unyielding bow and immediately rebounded with a stronger force. At this time, Haiwang still looked at him expressionlessly, and Haiwang once again extended his friendly hand. Haiwang still held his hand, but the next second Haiwang knocked him away, and then a storm of fists fell on him. Suddenly, Haiwang picked up Haiwang's arm, threw him heavily to the ground, and then performed a strangulation technique. Haiwang used the culture of Chinese etiquette to design this cunning fighting method, crippling one of Haiwang's arms. However, Haiwang said that he could fight with one hand, and you called him daddy. Then, Haiwang used a series of fatal kicks, and finally grabbed Haiwang's fingers with his toes and pulled Ji down hard. The Sea King was thrown to the ground and attacked Ji head-on. The Sea King was in such a state of misery that he used a 3-yin light pressure gesture to press the meridians on his ankles that connected to his internal organs, causing severe pain. Even a tough guy couldn't bear it. Just as he was about to fall, Lai Sea King grabbed Ji Sea King's beard with one foot.
The
Sea King used the Chinese kung fu of 4,000 years to its fullest. Such a fierce attack left the Sea King Ji without any chance to fight back, and he even resorted to a defensive posture of kneeling with his head in his hands. Because the defense of the back is 7 times that of the front, he seemed to want to withstand this wave of attacks in this way. The Sea King smiled coldly and pressed his hand on his spine. Ji Haiwang stood up unconsciously. At this moment, Haiwang had come to him. In this fierce fight, Haiwang lived up to everyone's expectations and won a game for the Huaxia team. At this time, Xiaoli was preparing for the next fight. His boxing was like a graceful dance, and his opponent was Fan Haiwang, who had the title of Leg King. An apple was thrown and it jumped up quickly, a snake-like response. The apple was cut into 2 halves by a corner. Half was given to the younger brother, and the other half was eaten by himself. The apple with the smell of feet became sweeter and sweeter. Soon, the two came to the fighting field, and little Ali jumped high and took the lead in attacking. A lightning-fast punch hit Van Haiwang's face as if it was cut by a knife, but he still looked down on boxing. This kind of fighting is to start with a high kick and then a fierce downward kick. Aquaman believes that as long as he uses his leg skills to attack crazily, boxing without kicking skills can only passively dodge. After several rounds, his attacks were cleverly avoided. Aquaman finally got angry and threw a downward punch at the squatting Ali. At this moment, Ali kicked the ground hard to stand up and threw a beautiful uppercut. After only 2 attacks, Fan Haiwang was knocked to the ground. After this match, the 4 40-year-old spectators of the Chinese team were all dejected, but they were powerless to save the situation. At this moment, the opponent, Yujiro, came out to encourage them. Chinese martial arts have a history of 4,000 years, and hundreds of thousands of martial artists have worked hard to move forward. Now there is finally a martial arts master who has reached the pinnacle of martial arts. Yes, he is the invincible Guo Haiwang. The shocking battle that has been going on for 100 years is finally about to begin.